Medieval times weren't just about knights, castles, and epic battles. They also had some seriously delicious desserts. But while we all know about modern sweets like cakes and pastries, there are dozens of medieval treats that have been completely forgotten. These desserts were rich, creative, and often packed with flavors we rarely use today. Think rosewater, saffron, and exotic spices brought in from the Silk Road. In this video, we're uncovering 30 forgotten medieval desserts that will blow your mind. From decadent fruit tarts to creamy custards, you're about to discover the sweetest hidden gems of the past. So grab a snack, hit that like button, and let's dive into the world of medieval desserts you wish you knew sooner. 1. Tarte de Brie. Alright, picture this. You're at a grand medieval feast. Lords and ladies are feasting on roasted meats, spiced wines, and elaborate dishes. But then, out comes the Tarte de Brie, a dessert so luxurious it was practically royalty on a plate. And yet, almost no one talks about it today. So, what exactly is Tarte de Brie? Well, think of it as the medieval ancestor of cheesecake. It was a rich, creamy tart made with fresh cheese, usually brie or another soft curd cheese mixed with eggs, sugar, and a hint of spice. But here's the twist. It wasn't just sweet. Medieval cooks loved their sweet and savory blends. So this tart often had a delicate balance of honey, saffron, and sometimes even a dash of salt. It was incredibly popular in the 14th and 15th centuries, appearing in royal menus across England and France. But over time, it vanished from mainstream baking. Why? Maybe because sugar became cheaper and people craved sweeter desserts. But let's be real, Tarte de Brie deserves a comeback, maybe just as much as this next treat. But if you are thinking, okay, but what about something that creamy and satisfying, then you could try tarte out of lente is up next. 2. Tarte out of lente.
The first dish we're going to make is called tart out of Lent.
The second on the list is a rich, creamy custard tart infused with warm spices, sweetened with honey, and packed with dried fruits. Well, this medieval masterpiece, tarte out of lente, was once a beloved dessert across Europe. But today, it's almost completely forgotten. And trust me, you're missing out. Tarte out of lente was essentially the medieval version of a luxury dessert. Eggs, cream, sugar, and spices, all wrapped in a flaky pastry crust. But here's the catch. It was specifically designed for times when meat was forbidden, like Lent, hence the name, tarte out of Lent. Monks, nobles, and even kings indulged in this dish, savoring the balance of sweetness and spice. Now, this tart didn't just stand alone, it was part of a grand medieval dessert lineup. Think doucettes, a similar custard tart, or flampointes, a spiced almond pie. Even gingerbread, a medieval take on gingerbread, shared that same mix of sweet and savory flavors. So why did tarte out of lente disappear? Who knows? But one thing's for sure, you need to try this. It's a forgotten gem just waiting to be rediscovered. 3. Doucettes. Oh, alright, you've probably heard of medieval feasts with grand roasted meats, spiced wines, and towering pies. But have you ever wondered what they had for dessert? Let me introduce you to doucettes, a long-forgotten medieval treat that you wish you knew sooner. Now, you might be thinking, medieval desserts? Were they even good? Oh, absolutely. Back in the 14th century, sugar was a luxury, and desserts were crafted with care, balancing spices, honey, and cream. Doucettes were one of those treats. Small, golden tarts filled with a sweet custard mixture of eggs, milk, and sugar, sometimes enhanced with saffron for color and depth. Originating from medieval England, doucettes were commonly baked for noble feasts. The recipe appeared in cookbooks like The Form of Curie, a collection of royal recipes from King Richard II's court. The tarts were simple yet indulgent, featuring a flaky crust and a lightly spiced, creamy filling that made them irresistible. But if you wanted something even easier and freezer-friendly, chewy, and still sweet, then pain ragoon was the next big thing. 4. Pain ragoon. Next up is pain ragoon. This chewy, nutty, honey-soaked delight was once a favorite among nobles. And honestly, we're kinda mad it disappeared. So, what exactly is pain ragoon? Imagine a medieval candy bar, a rich blend of honey, almonds, and breadcrumbs, cooked to perfection, then set into chewy, bite-sized pieces. Think of it like a cross between nougat and fudge, but with a rustic old-world charm. Originating in 13th century England, pain ragoon was a luxurious treat, often served at feasts and celebrations. Sugar was still rare back then, so honey was the go-to sweetener, giving it a deep, caramelized flavor. And those spices? Yeah, we're talking about saffron and cinnamon, pure decadence. So why should you try this forgotten gem? Well, because it's easy to make, naturally gluten-free, and perfect for anyone who loves historical cooking. Plus, it's insanely delicious, a chewy, nutty, honey-kissed bite of medieval nostalgia. 5. Flampointes. Ever heard of flampointes? No? Well, buckle up, because today we're diving into one of the most decadent, forgotten medieval desserts that's been lost to time, until now. Imagine biting into a golden, flaky pastry filled with rich, spiced custard, flavored with cinnamon, nutmeg, and saffron. Sounds fancy, right? That's because flampoints weren't just your average medieval pie, they were a showstopper on royal banquet tables. This luxurious dish hails from 14th century England and was popular among nobility. The name flampointes comes from its decorative crust, shaped like flickering flames because medieval folks didn't just want good food, they wanted food that looked spectacular. And the filling? A rich blend of eggs, cream, sugar, and warming spices, sometimes enriched with almonds or dried fruit. Once baked, the result was a creamy, melt-in-your-mouth dessert that was both visually stunning and ridiculously delicious. So, why did flampoints disappear? Well, tastes changed, and simpler sweets took over. But don't worry, we're bringing it back. Want to try making it yourself? Let us know in the comments. And if you wanted something even more nutty, then tart of strawberries were the next to go. 6. Tart of strawberries.
One of my favorite desserts. Oh, today I'm making strawberry tart.
Back in the Middle Ages, fresh fruit wasn't as common in desserts as you might think. Sugar was expensive, and most sweets relied on honey, nuts, and dried fruits. But when strawberries were in season, medieval cooks created something truly magical: a sweet and slightly savory strawberry tart, thickened with wine, breadcrumbs, and spices like cinnamon and ginger. Recipes from the 14th and 15th centuries describe these tarts as delicate yet flavorful, sometimes even perfumed with rose water for an extra touch of luxury. Unlike modern strawberry pies, which rely on cornstarch, medieval versions used breadcrumbs or ground almonds to create a smooth, thick filling. But if you needed something with breadcrumbs, I bet you will go with charred warden. 7. Chade Warden. Charred Warden, the medieval pear tart that time forgot. But trust me, you'll wish you knew about it sooner. Charred Warden dates back to the Middle Ages, when fruits were often baked into spiced tarts and thickened with breadcrumbs instead of flour. Think of it as the sophisticated ancestor of modern fruit pies. This dessert combines ripe pears, honey, cinnamon, and a dash of saffron, because in medieval times, even desserts had to look royal. Nobles and commoners alike enjoyed fruit-based sweets, but Charred Warden was something special, a balance of natural sweetness and subtle spices baked to perfection. So, why did we forget this masterpiece? Well, sugar took over, and simpler desserts pushed it aside. But now, it's your turn to bring it back. Would you give this medieval gem a try? Let us know in the comments. 8. Crustade Lombard. Alright, during the medieval courts of Europe, Crustade Lombard was a luxurious dessert from blending sweet and savory like nothing else. This pie combined a buttery crust with a filling of dried fruits, almonds, spiced wine, and honey, a far cry from today's sugar-laden treats. And the best part? It was considered a dish fit for kings. Unlike modern pies, Crustade Lombardy wasn't overly sweet. Instead, it had a complex aromatic taste, thanks to cinnamon, saffron, and nutmeg. It was baked until golden brown, then served warm with a drizzle of honey. Sounds delicious, right? Well, it's time to bring this forgotten treasure back to life. Would you be trying this? Let us know in the comments. 9. Paris in confit. If you thought Crustade Lombard were the ultimate dessert staple, wait until you try Paris in confit. This dessert dates back to the 14th century, where cooks would slow poach pears in a rich syrup made of red wine, sugar or honey if you weren't rolling in gold, cinnamon, cloves, and a dash of saffron for that royal touch. The result? Tender, melt-in-your-mouth pears that absorb all those deep, warming spices. It was basically medieval fine dining, dessert edition, and the best part about it is that it's ridiculously easy to make today. Serve it warm with cream, or go full medieval and pair it with a chunk of cheese. But if prey and confit isn't your thing, then crostata di ricotta will the next best thing. 10. Crostata di ricotta. Crostata di ricotta was a medieval masterpiece that somehow got lost in time, but today, we're bringing it back. The crostata di ricotta was a favorite among Italian nobility in the Middle Ages, blending fresh ricotta cheese, honey, and a delicate hint of citrus and spices, all wrapped in a perfectly flaky crust. Sounds fancy, right? But back then, this was a dessert for special occasions because sugar was a luxury. What makes this tart unforgettable is its balance of textures: smooth, velvety ricotta contrasted with a crisp, buttery pastry. And let's talk about flavor. A mix of nutmeg, cinnamon, and just the right amount of lemon zest. It's like cheesecake's medieval ancestor, only better. So why did we forget about crostata di ricotta? Who knows? But now that you know, it's time to bring it back. Who's ready to bake history? 11. Blanc manger.
our next dish is the medieval show dish par excellence, blanc-manger.
Now, don't let the name fool you. This isn't some basic pudding. Blancmanger was the ultimate medieval status symbol, a dish made from rice, almond milk, sugar, and sometimes shredded chicken or fish. Yeah, you heard that right, chicken in dessert. But don't worry, later versions ditched the meat and focused on sweet, creamy goodness. So, what did it taste like? Imagine a cross between rice pudding and panna cotta, but infused with the subtle floral notes of rose water and a touch of warm spices like cinnamon. It was light, slightly nutty, and smooth, basically the medieval equivalent of a Michelin-starred dessert. But why did it disappear? Well, sugar was once a luxury, and as ingredients became cheaper, people moved on to richer, more decadent sweets. But honestly, blancmanger deserves a revival. It's vegan-friendly, gluten-free, and ridiculously easy to make. So, if you're into historical cooking or just want to impress your friends, then blancmanger is the medieval masterpiece you didn't know you needed. Who's ready to bring this forgotten gem back to life? 12. Cress Weil. Well, among the many delightful but forgotten medieval desserts, Cress Weil stands out as a simple yet elegant dish that deserves a comeback. This creamy, spiced custard was enjoyed in medieval Europe, often served at feasts and banquets for nobility and clergy. While its exact origins remain unclear, Cress Weil was a beloved comfort food, combining the richness of milk with the delicate sweetness of honey and a blend of warming spices such as cinnamon and nutmeg. Unlike modern custards thickened with cornstarch, Cress Weil relied on a unique medieval technique using finely ground breadcrumbs or ground almonds to create its smooth texture. This made it both filling and subtly nutty, setting it apart from other sweet dishes of the time. Some versions also incorporated rose water, adding a fragrant floral note that was highly prized in medieval cooking. Cress Weil was often served warm, making it a soothing and satisfying dessert, especially during colder months. Though largely forgotten today, its simple ingredients and rich flavors make it an easy and rewarding dish to recreate. Whether you enjoy it as a historical curiosity or a new addition to your dessert repertoire, Cress Weil is a medieval treat you'll wish you had discovered sooner. 13. Fermenti. Fermenti, also spelled frumenti, was a beloved dish in medieval Europe, often served at feasts and celebrations. While it was sometimes a savory porridge, a sweetened version was a popular dessert, making it one of the earliest forms of rice or grain-based puddings. This dish was made by boiling cracked wheat in milk or almond milk until it thickened into a creamy consistency. It was then sweetened with honey or sugar and flavored with warm spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and saffron. Some variations included dried fruits, such as raisins or currants, making it even richer and more flavorful. The nobility often enhanced fermenti with exotic ingredients like rose water or expensive imported spices. Fermenti was highly nutritious and filling, making it a favorite dish among both the upper and lower classes. It was commonly served during festive occasions, including Christmas and Lent. Some medieval texts even describe it as a favored dish for knights before battle, as it provided sustained energy. Though largely forgotten today, fermenti deserves a revival. Its creamy, spiced sweetness offers a comforting and historical alternative to modern rice pudding. With a few simple ingredients, this medieval delight can be recreated in any kitchen, offering a taste of the past in every spoonful. 14. Mon Ami. Picture this. You're at a grand medieval feast, knights feasting, minstrels playing, and then dessert is served. But instead of cake or ice cream, you get a dish so rich, so creamy, so indulgent. It's called Mon Ami, and trust me, this is the medieval dessert you wish you knew sooner. This was not just any dessert. It was a velvety custard, thick with eggs, cream, sugar, and just a hint of saffron for that luxurious golden color. The name Mon Ami literally means my friend in Old French, and once you taste it, you'll understand why. Mon Ami was a favorite among the medieval elite. Served warm, it had a delicate sweetness and a silky texture that made it the ultimate comfort food of the Middle Ages. Now, imagine bringing this forgotten gem back to life. It's easy to make, uses simple ingredients, and is the perfect blend of nostalgia and indulgence. So, would you try Mon Ami? Let us know in the comments. 15. Chirizi. Our number 14 is chirizi, a forgotten medieval cherry pudding that you'll wish you knew sooner. Chirizi, or chirisai pottage, was a luxurious dish enjoyed in the Middle Ages. It combined juicy cherries with honey, breadcrumbs, and a blend of warm spices like cinnamon and cloves. Think of it as the medieval version of a cherry compote, but thicker, richer, and absolutely packed with flavor. Unlike modern puddings, this one was naturally sweetened. Sugar was a rare commodity. Instead, medieval cooks used honey or even wine to enhance the flavor. The result? A thick, velvety dessert that could be eaten warm or cold. Sadly, this dish disappeared over time. But why? Changing tastes, evolving recipes, and the rise of sugar-based desserts pushed it aside. But trust me, Cherisai deserves a comeback. 23. Wardonis in syrup. Ever wondered what desserts tasted like in the Middle Ages? Forget basic apple pie. What if I told you that medieval nobles were feasting on a luxurious, spiced pear dish that's been lost to time? Meet Wardonis in syrup, a decadent medieval treat that you'll wish you also knew about sooner. So, what exactly is Wardonis in syrup? This medieval dessert, dating back to the 14th century, features poached pears simmered in a rich, spiced syrup made with wine, honey, and exotic spices like cinnamon, cloves, and ginger. Back then, sugar was a rare luxury, so honey and wine were used to create that deep, caramelized sweetness. Imagine biting into a tender pear, soaked in warm, fragrant syrup, bursting with flavors that transport you straight to a medieval banquet. This wasn't just a dessert, it was a status symbol. Only the wealthy could afford spices from the Silk Road, making Wardonis in syrup a dish fit for kings and queens. Want to bring medieval magic into your kitchen? Try making Wardonis in syrup at home. Just poach pears in spiced wine and honey, and let the flavors take you back in time. So, who's ready to taste history? 24. Pineade. What if I told you that one of the most delicious, chewy, and naturally sweet treats from medieval times has been completely forgotten? Meet pineade, the medieval answer to modern nut brittle, only better. Back in the Middle Ages, sugar was rare, but honey, that was the king of sweeteners. Pineade was a simple yet decadent confection made with toasted pine nuts, pure honey, and a touch of spice, sometimes with a hint of saffron for a golden glow. Imagine the rich, caramelized crunch of nuts coated in warm, sticky honey, slowly cooling into chewy perfection. Knights and nobles alike snacked on this treat, and it was often gifted as a symbol of wealth and hospitality. But somewhere along the way, pineade disappeared from our dessert menus. Lucky for you, it's ridiculously easy to make at home. So, should we bring this medieval delicacy back? 25. Comfits. Comfits were a beloved medieval confectionery treat, often enjoyed by nobles and royalty. These small, sugar-coated seeds, nuts, or spices were not only a delightful sweet, but also considered a luxurious digestive aid after meals. Made through a labor-intensive process of repeatedly coating ingredients with layers of sugar syrup, comfits were the medieval precursor to modern-day sugared almonds and candy-coated treats. The most common comfits were made with anise seeds, fennel seeds, caraway seeds, almonds, and even coriander seeds. These were slowly built up with thin layers of sugar in a pan, a process that could take hours or even days to complete. The result was a crunchy, sweet shell surrounding a flavorful core, offering both taste and medicinal benefits. Medieval physicians often recommended comfits to aid digestion, freshen breath, and soothe stomach ailments. Comfits were frequently served at feasts or as a treat for guests. They were also a staple in sweet spice boxes, carried by the wealthy to refresh the palate. Their association with high society made them a sought-after luxury. Though largely forgotten today, comfits deserve a comeback. Their unique combination of sweetness and spice makes them a delightful addition to any dessert table, offering a taste of medieval indulgence in the modern era. 26. Malmenie. Malmenie was a luxurious medieval dessert that combined the rich flavors of almonds, honey, and exotic spices, making it a delicacy enjoyed by nobility and royalty. This forgotten dish was a thick, sweetened syrup or pudding, often made with ground almonds, rose water, sugar, and wine. It was sometimes enriched with cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg, which were prized spices in the medieval era. Unlike many modern desserts, malmenie had a unique texture, somewhere between a pudding and a thick sauce. It was often served alongside fruits, meats, or even as a sweet dipping sauce for bread. The dish was considered both nourishing and indulgent, with the use of almonds providing a creamy consistency, while honey and spices elevated the flavor profile. Though it has faded from modern cuisine, malmenie is a dessert worth reviving. Its rich, nutty sweetness and aromatic blend of spices make it a unique alternative to traditional puddings and custards. Whether served warm or chilled, this medieval treat offers a taste of history that modern food food lovers would appreciate. If you enjoy desserts with a hint of exotic flair, Montmagny is one you'll wish you had discovered sooner. 27. Sugared almond. Have you ever bitten into a crunchy sweet treat and thought, wow, this feels ancient? Well, you might just be tasting history. Up next, we're talking about sugared almonds, one of the most forgotten medieval desserts that deserves a serious comeback. Sugared almonds, also known as dragées, were the ultimate medieval sweet snack. These little gems were coated in honey, sugar, and spices, creating a crunchy, candy-like shell around the almond. And trust me, back in the Middle Ages, if you had these, you were living the high life. These weren't just a random treat. They were status symbols, served at royal feasts and lavish weddings. Sugar was expensive, and anything made with it was considered elite cuisine. So, what was the process involved in making these delectable treats? Surprisingly simple. Almonds were slowly coated in layers of sugar syrup and left to harden. Some versions even had rose water or cinnamon for extra flavor. So, next time you're craving something sweet, skip the store-bought candy and give medieval sugared almonds a try. Would you eat these? Let us know in the comments. 28. Snow. Snow was a delicate, airy medieval dessert that closely resembled modern meringue. It was made by whipping egg whites with sugar until frothy, sometimes flavored with rose water or fruit juices. The mixture was often served piled high like a snowdrift, giving it its charming name. In wealthier households, snow was enhanced with cream or almond milk to create a richer texture. This elegant treat was popular at medieval feasts, where it provided a light contrast to heavier dishes. Unlike today's baked meringue, medieval snow was usually served fresh and soft. Its simplicity, requiring just a few ingredients, made it an accessible luxury. Despite its delightful texture and flavor, snow gradually faded from culinary traditions, replaced by more complex confections. However, with modern interest in historical recipes, this forgotten delicacy deserves a revival. If you love light, sweet desserts, snow is a medieval gem worth rediscovering.
29. Hypocras jelly.
Hypocras jelly was a luxurious medieval dessert that blended the rich flavors of spiced wine with the delicate texture of a sweet jellied treat. Inspired by Hypocras, a popular medieval spiced wine infused with cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and nutmeg, this jelly was thickened with gelatin or isinglass, a type of fish-based thickener, and sweetened with honey or sugar. Often served at royal feasts, it was enjoyed as a refined way to end a meal. The warming spices and fruity depth made Hypocras jelly both delicious and medicinal, as medieval people believed spiced wine aided digestion. Though it has faded from modern kitchens, this unique dessert deserves a revival. Imagine a smooth, aromatic jelly infused with mulled wine flavors, perfect for winter gatherings. With today's access to gelatin and spices, recreating this forgotten medieval delicacy is easier than ever. One taste, and you'll wonder why it ever disappeared. 30. Fart of Portingale. Last on our list, we have farts of Portingale. Imagine biting into a warm, crispy pastry, perfectly spiced and lightly dusted with sugar, only to find out it's called farts of Portingale. Yeah, you heard that right. Despite the hilarious name, this forgotten medieval dessert is something you wish you knew sooner. Originating from Portugal, farts of Portingale were deep-fried pastries stuffed with spiced fruits, nuts, or even sweet cheese. They were a hit at medieval feasts, thanks to their flaky texture and rich flavors. Think of them as a cross between a donut and a fritter, but with a medieval twist. They were often made with cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg, spices that were once more valuable than gold. So, why did these golden, crispy delights disappear? Who knows? But maybe it's time for a comeback. Would you try a batch of farts of Portingale? Let me know in the comments. And there you have it, 30 forgotten medieval desserts that deserve a comeback. From honey-soaked pastries to spiced custards, these sweet treats prove that medieval folks knew how to satisfy a sweet tooth. So, which one are you dying to try first? Let us know in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this tasty trip through time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss out on more delicious history. Until next time, happy baking. 16. SOPs in wine. Ever wondered what medieval people ate for dessert? Forget boring old cake. How about sups in wine? This forgotten medieval treat was once a favorite among nobles and commoners alike. And trust me, you're gonna wish you knew about it sooner. So, what exactly is it? SOPs in wine is as simple as it sounds. Pieces of soft bread soaked in spiced, sweetened wine. But don't let the simplicity fool you. This dish was all about indulgence. Imagine warm, fluffy bread absorbing a rich, aromatic wine infused with honey, cinnamon, and cloves. Sounds like something out of a fancy Renaissance fair, right? Back in medieval times, bread wasn't just for sandwiches, it was used in everything. Instead of wasting stale loaves, they soaked them in wine to create a soft, pudding-like texture. This was a common dessert among both peasants and royalty, with wealthier folks using the finest imported spices and the best wines. Now, why should you care? Well, if you love French toast, bread pudding, or even tiramisu, this medieval dessert might just be your new favorite treat. It's easy to make, ridiculously delicious, and gives you a taste of history with every bite. So, are you ready to bring sops and wine back? 17. Pottage douce.
When it's chilly outside, this is my go-to soup. It's a potato potage.
Up next, we have the pottage douce. This wasn't just any ordinary dish, it was a sweet velvety porridge made with rice, milk, honey, and exotic spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. Think of it as the medieval ancestor of rice pudding, but with a luxurious twist. Back in the Middle Ages, sugar was rare and expensive, so most sweet dishes relied on honey, dried fruits, and spices. Pottage douce was a favorite among European nobles, who craved something sweet after a heavy meal. It was often thickened with breadcrumbs or almonds, giving it an extra layer of richness. This dish isn't just a relic of the past, it's a perfect blend of comforting and gourmet flavors. It's warm, creamy, and incredibly easy to make with modern ingredients. Plus, it's naturally gluten-free, so why let this amazing dessert fade into history? Try making pottage douce at home and taste a piece of the medieval world. But if you think that pottage douce is not your thing, then caboches and potage is up next. 18. Caboches and potage. Despite its fancy name, caboches and potage is basically a sweet pumpkin pudding. Yes, the medieval ancestors of your pumpkin spice obsession. But, unlike today's pumpkin pies, this dish was slow-cooked with honey, cinnamon, saffron, and almond milk, creating a rich, creamy, spiced treat fit for a king. Back in the 14th century, this dessert was a rare indulgence. Sugar was expensive, so honey was the go-to sweetener. Combined with fragrant spices from the Silk Road, this dish became a medieval favorite. Yet today, almost no one has heard of it. So why did it disappear? Blame changing tastes and the rise of sugar-heavy dessert. But if you wanted to keep things fancy and sweeter, pisang was the move. 19. Pisang. So, what if I told you there's a medieval dessert made with bananas that most people have never even heard of? It's called pisang, and trust me, you're going to wish you knew about this sooner. Back in the medieval Islamic world, exotic fruits like bananas weren't just snacks. They were turned into rich, decadent desserts. Pisang, an early banana pudding, was a favorite among the elite, combining ripe bananas with honey, almonds, and fragrant spices. It was creamy, sweet, and packed with flavor, basically the ancestor of our modern banana pudding. So, how was it made? First, overripe bananas were mashed into a smooth paste. Then, they were gently simmered with honey, cinnamon, and rose water, creating a thick, aromatic mixture. Sometimes, ground almonds were added for extra richness. The final touch? A sprinkle of crushed nuts or dried fruit for texture. So, why did this dessert disappear? Well, as trade routes shifted and new sweets like sugar-based confections took over, medieval banana dishes like pisang slowly faded into obscurity. But now that you know about it, why not bring it back? Try making pisang at home and experience a forgotten taste of medieval luxury. 20. Eggs in moonshine. Among the many lost treasures of medieval cuisine, eggs in moonshine stands out as an intriguing and delightful dessert. This dish, which dates back to the 14th and 15th centuries, features poached eggs bathed in a rich spiced custard sauce sweetened with honey or sugar. The name moonshine likely refers to the glistening appearance of the creamy sauce, which was often flavored with rosewater, cinnamon, and nutmeg, making it both fragrant and luxurious. In medieval times, eggs were considered a symbol of prosperity and nourishment, making them a common ingredient in both sweet and savory dishes. Eggs in moonshine were often served at feasts and banquets, enjoyed by nobility as an indulgent delicacy. The dish combines the delicate texture of poached eggs with the smooth, velvety sweetness of the custard, creating a unique flavor profile that is surprisingly sophisticated. Though largely forgotten, eggs in moonshine deserves a revival. Its combination of simple yet elegant ingredients makes it an easy dish to recreate today, offering a glimpse into the refined tastes of medieval dining. If you're a fan of custards and historical recipes, this is one dessert you'll wish you had discovered sooner. 21. Gingerbread. Gingerbread, the medieval ancestor of modern gingerbread, was a beloved sweet treat in medieval Europe. Unlike today's baked gingerbread cookies or cakes, this historical confection was more of a chewy, spiced candy made by mixing honey, breadcrumbs, and warming spices such as ginger, cinnamon, and cloves. It was then shaped into decorative squares or pressed into molds, often dusted with powdered sugar or decorated with gold leaf for special occasions. This treat was highly prized not only for its flavor, but also for its perceived medicinal benefits. In medieval times, spices like ginger and cinnamon were considered powerful remedies for digestion and overall health. Because sugar was expensive, gingerbread was often reserved for the wealthy or for festive occasions like feasts and celebrations. It was a favorite among nobility and even used as a love token or gift. Despite its rich history, gingerbread has largely been forgotten in modern kitchens. However, its simple yet indulgent recipe makes it easy to recreate. If you love spiced sweets, trying this medieval delight will transport your taste buds back in time, offering a unique glimpse into the culinary traditions of the past. It's a forgotten treasure worth rediscovering, but if you want something more sweeter, then rapes in white honey. 22. Rapes in white honey. Think medieval desserts, and you probably imagine honey cakes, spiced tarts, or maybe even an early version of gingerbread. But have you ever heard of rapes in white honey? No, we're not talking about grapes. Rapes was the medieval term for turnips. Yes, turnips in dessert. Sounds weird? Stick around, because this lost treat is sweeter than you think. Rapes in white honey was a luxurious medieval dish where humble turnips were transformed into something magical. Poached in a delicate syrup of honey, white wine, and fragrant spices like cinnamon and ginger, this dish was soft, sweet, and full of depth, almost like caramelized pears or candied yams. Back in the Middle Ages, sugar was a rare luxury, but honey, that was the king of sweeteners. Wealthy nobles dined on decadent desserts like this, enjoying the delicate balance of earthiness from the turnips and the floral sweetness of white honey. And here's the kicker: you can make it today. Simply swap out turnips for parsnips or sweet potatoes, simmer them in honey and wine, and boom, you've got yourself a medieval treat fit for a feast. Enjoy!